Hannah Murray on TRE in the afternoon.
Joining us on the line now is Jennifer Shahade. She is a 3-time national chess champion, poker pro, speaker and author. She was the first female to win the US Junior Open and has won 2 US Women's Championship titles. She's a 2-time Global Poker Award winner and has won poker tournaments all over the world. Her new book, Thinking Sideways, shows that you don't have to be a chess player to think more like a chess player, drawing on examples from business, sports and psychology, as well as her own experiences touring the world. Thinking Sideways is a toolkit for smarter thinking. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Hey, thank you so much. Great to be here.
It's lovely to have you with us. And wow, my goodness. I've never interviewed a chess player before. So this is a first for me. I'm really excited because I think it's amazing what you've achieved. How did you know that you weren't just playing chess for fun and that it was something that you could do professionally?
It actually took me a little while. I didn't take to it right away. My brother actually is also a chess master, and he is 2 years older than me and seemed like he was going to be the chess player in the family because he just gravitated towards it and got very good quickly. My dad is also a chess master, and I was kind of more involved in creative fields like writing and acting. And I realized at some point when I was about 13 years old, which is actually the age that a lot of girls quit chess, I actually jumped back in because I realized that this was not just a game, but it was also a way to express my creativity. And it was also a vehicle to explore the world and meet all sorts of different people. And frankly, at 13, it became less annoying to be one of the only girls.
And what about poker playing? How did you get into that?
Well, I got into that much later, of course, since poker is a game for grown-ups. I learned a little bit after college, actually. I started to realize that many of my chess playing friends were making lots of money in poker because this was a time when there wasn't very much poker theory. So as long as you approached the game in a way that showed you love math and you believe in math, you could be very successful. It's become much more difficult now, but back then, really, if you could really just kind of memorize the odds and play with some discipline, you could make quite a bit of money. And so I learned from them. And what really attracted to me poker was the same thing that attracted me to chess. The fact that I could play a game and also meet all these interesting people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. I feel that both in the case of chess and poker, they're kind of vehicles to see the world and to meet different types of people.
Yeah. And it's fascinating to me how I've known a few professional poker players throughout my life and find it fascinating that it's not just something that people would do in a casino as a bit of gambling fun, but that people do it as a career.
They do. And you have to be very good to make it as a career. But in a way, it's like every man's version of finance. You're managing a bankroll, managing risks. And yet you don't necessarily need a college degree to do it, although many people who excel in it are also very traditionally educated. But a lot of it is street smarts and the ability to learn the math on your own.
Yeah. So with regards to this book, it's not about playing chess, is it? It's about the kind of similarities or the way that you can develop your chess brain, if you like. Tell me how you came up with this book.
Well, the title Thinking Sideways, I think, is very applicable to chess players. And that might surprise people because we think of chess as a game that's about thinking ahead. But really, it's all about thinking sideways or looking at all the different possibilities. And it's so much about staying present and being in that present tense. And I think that surprises people because when I'm asked about chess, I'm always asked, how many moves do you think ahead? And famously, one world champion said 1. But it's the right one. And that type of mindset, I think, is very useful now when it's even more absurd to plan too far ahead because of the rapidly changing world from AI to everything in our world is just seeming to change so quickly.
So are you aware of using some of the philosophies or thought processes that you have when playing chess in your everyday life?
Yes. I think that one of the biggest things that you can learn from chess and apply to everyday life is the idea of time management, because chess, in essence, is making decisions under time constraints. You have to not only make a decision, but you have to decide how much time you should spend on each decision. And that can be very, very tricky. I'd say in general, most people spend too long on tough decisions because they basically want to think their way out of the decision being tough. And this is true in life and in chess. You get into a difficult position, and what you really want is you want there to be a clear answer. You know, do I move my rook? Do I move my bishop? Do I take this job? Do I wait for something better? Or do I take the safe option and, you know, lock my lease up and my life up for the next year in something that I know is going to be steady, even if I don't really feel that passion? You know, these are difficult questions. They don't have easy answers. And I think one of the things that people really struggle with is that at some point you just have to decide. You know, there's going to be some uncertainty with every decision you make. You can't be sure that it's correct. And so in chess, we have this concept of like the wrong rook problem, which is the idea that sometimes in chess you're deciding between moving two rooks. And you think and you think and you think. And one famous grandmaster said, well, after you've thought about it for 10 minutes, take the rook that you were going to move and move the other one.
So is it fair to say that you're not much of a procrastinator?
Well, you know, sometimes you write a book because you need the advice in the book more than anyone. And I certainly think that is true. You know, my first book was called Chess Bitch, and I felt like that was an important book for me because I needed to be more aggressive and stand up for myself. And with Thinking Sideways, I feel like I do think sideways in many contexts, but also there's a ton of advice in that book that I needed more than anyone. Like when I talked about memory and, you know, staying off your phone, prioritizing sleep, and making sure that you're writing things down by hand because that really improves your ability to memorize something. All of these things I was actually able to use in my own career because I wrote the book. So I think that, it's a kind of a lifelong process, thinking sideways. Yeah. It's not something that you can just do and turn on, just like kind of working out. You can't just like work out once and then be in shape, right? Don't
absolutely.
You wish?
Yeah, I imagine. And what about your experiences touring the world? How has that helped you in life?
Well, certainly being able to experience the world and see other cultures was really eye-opening, especially as a child. You know, it's interesting that I saw the Super Bowl show yesterday. You know, I'm in Europe right now, but I watched it, and I heard that afterwards the interest in Spanish language courses spiked because so many people just were like, yeah. Everybody was like, oh, I want to learn Spanish now because that looks like fun.
That's amazing.
And that really resonates with my experience. Actually, the first international event I went to, it was in Brazil, but Spanish was the lingua franca, if you will, because there was many players from all the South American and Central American countries playing. And after that event, all the jokes, all the music, all the dancing, I went back and I went from the mediocre Spanish student to top of the class because I was like, I want to learn this so I can enjoy it. And I think that chess became a vehicle in that way for me to like be more interested in things outside of chess because of chess. And, you know, that's what makes it very beautiful, I think.
Yeah. And tell me about your time as the women's program director at the US Chess Federation.
Well, my entire career, I've been really big on like getting more girls and women into chess, from co-founding Nine Queens to like all of the events I do now with girls in chess. And that's really important for me because chess has a lot of benefits for all genders. And unfortunately, very few girls really grasp them because they don't necessarily get into the game. And it's not exposed to them as much, whether it's by parents, coaches, or even social media algorithms. They just don't think that girls will be interested in chess. And of course, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think that every single person should be exposed to as many things as possible because you never know what's going to light a fire in them, you know, and make them feel more alive, which is so important right now. I talk in the book a lot about the importance of the flow experience and the flow state. And I think that in chess, it's a great gateway to flow. Like if you play chess, you're probably going to lose your sense of time in a good way.
And how long does it generally take you to play a game of chess? Because it can go on for hours, can't it?
It can. It can go on for hours and it can last 2 minutes. And yeah, we are talking about chess here.
So, does a good game last longer? How does the length of the game? Why is it important?
Well, it's actually more about time control. So every chess game has a different time control or a different time slot that's fit into. So if we play what's called a blitz game, you and I would only get 1 to 5 minutes each to complete all of our moves. And if you lose on time, you lose the game. So this is kind of almost like chess as a video game. And that's one of the reasons it's become so popular, because it's played as an esport where time is of the essence. So it's a combination of your brain and your speed and your physicality. Mm-hmm. But then there's the old-fashioned chess, which I've won many titles in, which we call classical chess. And in classical chess, you have hours to make your move. And, this mirrors the two types of thinking that we sometimes need in our real lives. Sometimes we have to make very, very quick decisions. And sometimes we have a little bit longer. And I personally think that classical chess is very beautiful. And that's the one that really gives you the flow experience.
Does it not get frustrating? I mean, if you're focusing, trying to concentrate, working out what your move is going to be, then you're focused on that. But if you're waiting for somebody else, does it not get frustrating? Do you not want to be like, come on, get on with it?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it gets a bit boring if you're in a position that's very unpleasant. You know what I mean? Like, well, when is this going to end? It's like imagine being pinned in wrestling for an hour or something. It's very unpleasant, but you can't give up because you never know your opponent may make a mistake. Yeah. But you just are suffering. And how do you get through it? You remember those times that you're suffering and somehow you manage to win the game. And these days in sports analytics, it's also very important. You might only have a 1 to 5% chance to win, and your job is to make it 5%. To go from 1 to 5, that's 5 times, right? And over time, it really adds up if you have that perseverance to never give up until it's really over.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big life lesson as well, that you just never know when things are going to turn around. So be ready. That doesn't mean you can force it. You can't force things to go your way, but be ready for them to turn around. Don't be despondent.
And because you're at such a high level playing chess, do you always need to play with other people at a high level? I mean, would it be really boringly easy if you played with a novice?
I like coaching and playing any level, to be honest. But in terms of the drama of who's going to win the game, if I'm playing somebody much weaker, there won't be that much drama, but we can still have a lot of fun. Yeah. But yeah, if you want the drama of whether I'm going to win or you're going to win, you definitely need to play somebody of a similar level. And in fact, that's something that was studied by psychologists who were trying to, think about why chess brings people into the flow state. And the father of flow, Csikszentmihalyi, actually talked about this, where he said that it's all about finding somebody at that appropriate level, where it's not too easy and it's not too hard, which is kind of a mirror for finding challenges in our own lives.
Yeah. And something that when you were saying earlier about something inspiring people to learn Spanish, it reminded me of The Queen's Gambit, which was obviously a hugely successful TV series a few years ago. And I remember when that came out, when it finished rather, again, it was all reported over the media how many people, particularly women, because it was about a female chess player, all went to learn and take up chess, which is brilliant.
Oh, yeah. I mean, fantastic. It was such a beautifully done docuseries. And it really inspired a lot of men and a lot of women. I think her tale was very universal, of being unlike everyone else and still persevering because you love the craft. And that is something that I think everyone can be inspired by.
Yeah.
That you can use the fact that you're outnumbered as an advantage, not as a disadvantage.
Mm. Well, if people want to get a copy of Thinking Sideways, How to Think Like a Chess Pro and Win at Life, from making smarter choices to building focus and confidence, it's available now on our website, tre.radio, in the bookshop section, and it's by Jennifer Shahade, who we've been chatting with today. Jennifer, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. Next time I talk to you, you'll be playing chess. Let's go.
Yay!